Gaza, the 4th of October 2023. An army on the march. The army responsible for the 7th of October. 3 days before the assault, the Islamic Jihad group organized this huge military parade. They proudly displayed their new weapons, long-range rockets and drones capable of reaching right into Israel. Hamas had been in power in Gaza since 2007, and the Jihad group had been collaborating with them for years. No leaders from either of the groups at this parade agreed to speak on camera. They'd been organizing an attack for months. The fighters were ready to sacrifice their lives, ready to say farewell to Gaza. We left Gaza one day before the war. Only a few Palestinian workers were crossing the Erez checkpoint. The following day, this border, considered one of the most closely guarded in the world, would be stormed.
There is no obstacle in the world, there is no wall in the world, there is no fence in the world that you cannot cross. The wall was only against groups of Hamas, as we had in the past, groups that were trying to cross it, not an army, not hundreds, not thousands of people. The problem was that we knew the plan. The plan was in our hands, but we were blind from it.
How could Israeli authorities have been so blind to this threat? Why were the kibbutz attacked in southern Israel left defenseless for so many hours? The terrorist attacks on the 7th of October left over 1,200 dead. 251 Israelis were also taken hostage to Gaza. The Israeli government continues to refuse a proper inquiry into security failings on the 7th of October, a year later.
It's one of many recordings. You can hear Ronnie here. Even in moments of extreme tension, she knew to be there and do her job in the best way possible, in the most professional way.
Ronnie was 19 years old. On the 7th of October, in this military base, Eyal Eshel's daughter was burned alive. This is where she carried out her role of observer, one of the lowest ranks of the Israeli army. These soldiers were unarmed, their only task to scan the border 24 hours a day.
My hand stays black. It makes you realize how much soot there was. Imagine the suffocation. That's what's left of a telephone, and that's a keyboard. The temperature was so high that everything melted. This was a screen. The female observers sat there, each responsible for a well-defined area.
Over the weeks before the 7th of October, Ronnie and her colleagues had made several reports. They'd observed suspicious movements at the border, preparations, attempts to neutralize the cameras.
One thing is clear. The events on the October 7th Shabbat could have been avoided if only someone had listened to these observers. For months before October 7th, they'd been alerting over and over. They relayed the information to their superiors. If only somebody had paid attention and analyzed this information and had understood the strategic scenario which led us to this catastrophe, we wouldn't be here today, surely not in this building.
16 soldiers were killed at Nahal Oz on the 7th of October, and 5 others were taken hostage. But what exactly had they seen before the Hamas assault? There are few left able to testify. In Tel Aviv, we meet with Ronnie Lifshitz, former observer, who left Nahal Oz at the end of September. She has decided to keep a reminder of it on her skin, the GPS coordinates of the base on her right arm.
What really happened was that there were a lot of events over a short period of time. It was unusual. If there was an event once a month, that was normal before the 7th of October. But events were happening every day. Attempts to destroy the barrier. The Gazans would get close and test our reaction time and our actions. For example, we saw a dozen pickup trucks with Nukba terrorists 300 meters from the barrier. They shouldn't have been there. That's a video from the 6th of October. How does it feel to see that? I don't know. I can't imagine they're gone. It's like they're still there for me, as if nothing happened. 6th of October, 7th of October, it's the same for me.
Ronnie says she was not contacted by any government investigator over the course of a year. Today she's meeting with Eyal Eshel. She is here to put her testimony into the public record. The Israeli state has refused to investigate October the 7th security flaws while there is a war on. A group of victims' families have therefore decided to organize their own unofficial commission in the meantime.
I was one of the founders of the commission. We've been talking about it for 10 months. And over those 10 months, nothing was done by the State of Israel or its political leaders. But now we know that we're asking the right questions to find out all the little details. Because if we don't know all the details that led to that Shabbat on October 7th, we'll never know how to correct our mistakes.
Was this situation of invasion and combat in the base discussed beforehand in the army?
Nobody ever said anything to us.
As soon as someone enters the base, what do?
Nothing. Terrorists should never have entered the base.
But with your screens, you could see them. Did they work?
The surveillance balloons were grounded throughout my tour of duty.
For most of your tour of duty, that's over a year?
Most of the cameras break down relatively often. When they did, they were repaired, but not quickly. When a technician was available and managed to fix them.
A few days earlier, a former prime minister had taken the witness stand. Ehud Olmert was responsible for negotiating Israel's disengagement from Gaza in 2005. He sees the commission as a chance to attack current Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Bibi knows that if there will be a commission of inquiry, he will be found guilty of negligence, of arrogance, and of course he will have to pay a price which will not only be a political price, but perhaps even more than that.
A few critical voices can even be heard among the ranks of the Israeli army. Danny Tirza is a former Sahel commander, now active in reserve forces. Up until 2007, he was responsible for building Israel's walls. He says now that October the 7th was the result of an Israeli superiority complex.
One of the problems was the stigma that we had about the Hamas. We thought that the Israeli technology is very advanced, and we thought that this technology can help us to have less soldiers on the ground and use more technology. We believed that the Hamas are primitive. We were really blind by our mind. We thought that if they will improve the day-to-day life, the situation in Gaza will be better and people will not come against Israel.
But in Gaza, Hamas was advancing its positions. This is one of the leading masterminds of the 7th of October attacks, Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza since 2017. Hidden today deep in tunnels, the Israelis have been unable to get to him. But one man in Israel knows him better than anyone. Mikhail Kobi is a former Shin Bet member. In the 1990s, he interrogated Sinwar for more than 150 hours. He says he's always believed that Hamas would eventually attack.
Okay, Yahya Sinwar told me in his interrogation all the details about his planning how to enter to Israeli territories. He and his units, especially the Nukba, the plan that he told me in '89 was similar to the plan that was at 7 October. Here I have all the authentic papers from the interrogation.
But he will only show us a few press cuttings relating to his infiltration missions in Palestinian territory.
That's the way of my life. Believe me, it was difficult, it was hard.
In Mikhail Kobi's day, the Secret Service mainly relied on spies and human intelligence. The retired soldier says he disagrees with the new military method.
The Israeli, reduce the quantity of the human, even to zero. That's a big mistake. We have to do everything to build a new system of the human, as we are doing now during the war. Believe me, we have a lot of intelligence from the people that we capture, inside the tunnels, up the tunnels, and we have a lot of agents that gave us a lot of information. That's proof that a human is the one system, the best system that we have to do.
Today in Gaza, surveillance drones continue to fly over the enclave 7 days a week. Since October 2023, more than 41,000 Palestinians have been killed. The war is so violent that the International Court of Justice warned Israel to take measures to prevent any act of genocide. To control the population, the Israeli army continues to use cutting-edge technology. In November, we filmed these civilians along the Salah al-Din corridor waiting to be checked by the army. It has now been confirmed that the Israelis were using artificial intelligence to scan each face, trying to determine who might be a member of the armed groups. After a year of war, the idea of any day after is currently nothing but a great illusion for Palestinian civilians. For Eyal Eshel, the only hope on the horizon is that of justice.
Above all, the truth must come out into the open. Those responsible for this disastrous event must stand up with one hand raised and say, "Sorry, we made a mistake. We failed. We failed." They must face justice, for we cannot rest until the guilty face justice.